Okay, I already cut myself off. This is gonna be in parts, apparently. If I just record this on my phone, I'll need advice on how to do this because I maybe just need to learn how to upload straight to YouTube because there's not a time limit. All right, so emissary, master emissary, your left brain becomes a slave to its unconscious and it doesn't know why it's doing the things that it's doing, but it maybe thinks it does, but it may not. So that's one part of the mosaic. Another part of the mosaic could be your embodied. This is where I want to get into Michael Polanyi and subsidiary-focal integration. And the simplest way to illustrate that would be like riding a bike, learning a musical instrument. Most things in life are probably this way because we're really much more formed by our habits and our instincts than by our conscious awareness. Because that's what you do, is you focus on a subsidiary thing, and you focus on it, and then you integrate that into your body so that it can become subconscious so that you no longer have to focus on it, which is how we do most of the things that we do. Riding a bike is that way. When you're learning to ride a bike, what you're doing is subsidiary-focal integration. You're focusing on all these little simple patterns, and you're embodying them. You're training through repeated ritual. By repeatedly doing this thing, you're training your body, or strumming a guitar, learning piano, you're training your body, your fingers, you're getting the memory into your body so that you no longer have to focus on it, and then you can focus on higher order things. What actually allows you to play a song and sing at the same time, or ride a bike and look downfield so that you can avoid obstacles, is that you have all of this, you have many, many different pieces of all this subsidiary stuff integrated so that it's no longer focal. So you no longer have to focus on it in your prefrontal cortex. You've built neural integration and pathways in the back of your mind. Jordan Peterson talks about this stuff. So all of those things, all of those habits that you have in your body, which are legion. I mean, who knows how many there are? Millions upon millions, probably. I mean, you're learning these things from the time you're born, which I would argue is comparatively to your conscious articulable awareness, dwarfs it. It's like an iceberg. It's not even close. And that's a huge percentage of who you are, what you do, who you are, your habits and your rituals, of which you can slowly direct like a rudder with your mind and with your mouth and with your conscious awareness, but your relation to that is through time. You can do that through time. As you approach something in time, you can slowly redirect your habits and rituals, but you can't do that instantly. You can't just change what you love overnight or in a moment. You don't have that kind of, your will cannot do that, which is why that's what self-discipline is. So that's a part of the mosaic. I would also argue that your imagination is part of the mosaic, of which I've been thinking has a couple facets to it. There's probably an individual facet of it. There's probably also a collective unconscious facet of it, like your family, your culture, the region that you live in, the geography that you grew up in, all these different things that shaped you. I'll link that Cormac McCarthy quote that I always love to quote, which is great, about how the lands are formed by the times and the seasons and the weather, and it's the same with a man, and they're not easily come by otherwise. That's what I'm talking about. A phrase that I brought up to Topher and Shari and Joey the other day in the Discord, as I was trying to describe this, was in the Bridges of Meaning Discord, was like the saying, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. What that means is, like, you can change the circumstance, but how that circumstance has formed that person at a very deeply instinctual level cannot be changed, which is a lot to do with Tom Holland's whole new thing in Dominion and Christian atheism in the Christian West, is like, yeah, you maybe don't think you're a Christian, but you sure act like one. Or if you go to a lot of Eastern countries or Muslim countries and you say you're from America, or a lot of Christianized Europe, and you say, well, I'm not a Christian, they're like, okay, sure you're not. And whatever, there's truth to that. There's truth and there's merit and untruth to that, like, whatever you consciously think about what you are is important. But my argument is that it's small, because the vision with which you see the world is a mosaic. Again, the whole point. What was another piece that I wanted to bring in? There are other pieces. I'll probably end with this because it's a quote that I go back to all the time, and I think it illustrates this, and I think it's very important, and I think it succinctly symbolically contains all of this stuff, but just not in as much precision, in a poetic, deeper, transcendent way. But I think it's helpful, and it's C.S. Lewis's quote from The Magician's Nephew, which he just drops in there. But what you see and hear depends a lot upon where you're standing. It also depends upon the kind of person you are. Part of that is your conscious awareness, again, the propositions that you hold to. I mean, you could bring in Vervaeke's propositional, participatory, procedural, perspectival. Some of that stuff is what I'm talking about. But even within the analytical frame where you're thinking about all those things, you're still in abstraction. You're still in the ego. You're still in frame mode, idea world, as I call it. You're not at the more fundamental level, which is the vision itself, which is something that is beyond your control. I would argue, I'm just getting into radical theology, and I've been listening to Altizer a little bit. An interview that he put forward. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to read him because he, Peter Rollins, some of these guys, John Milbank, even with Radical Orthodoxy, are the guys that are talking about things at the level that actually has to deal with the evolution of consciousness and moving. Like even Charles Taylor, you know, in A Secular Age, when he's talking about the pre-axial stuff, the buffered selves versus the porous selves. And then we got into Descartes and Cartesian dualism and epistemology, and then we had this buffered selves where there was the evolution of the individual and self-awareness, and we started separating from the group. There has to be a reintegration into that, which I think is what Barfield was getting at with final participation, which I think these kind of radical theologians and the honest pomos, not the mofo pomos, the honest postmodernists are trying to get at, which is, or Barfield talks about this with poetic philosophy, poetic diction, words, language and words that evoke a new consciousness, a new way of seeing. They change your mosaic in ways that are beyond your conscious control, because the entirety of who you are, the nous, maybe you could say in more ancient terms, is more than your conscious awareness. It's a mosaic. Okay, that's the idea. I'll stop it there. There's two pieces. I'll try to figure this out. I'll get someone to help me. All right, peace out.